this is when we really started to grow. That system allowed us to manage, operate multiple locations. Once that happened, the business of storage really became something. That's when we needed to expand personnel. This takes you from a handful of investments to a business. That business then can take you very far, right? And all you'll be doing is improving the systems, hiring people within them and improving them. Be intentional about this stuff because then you'll get better at it. You'll get really good at it, even when it's just that part-time employee doing it. Then when you hire a full-time employee, you've been intentional, you know what you need to do, you know how to do it, you get better and better and better. And then you have a rock star team that is unbeatable. Welcome everybody to Self-Storage Income. And Connor, today we have a large topic. It is so essential. I think, you've brought this up and you talked about this last week as well. It can be really hard to conceptualize. And I remember thinking that too. Today, our companies, all the organization we have, all the people that we have, right? Thinking back to when it was, Sam, and like we just doing everything. Like to get from there to there, we didn't really know. It's wild to think about that. And I think it can be hard to conceptualize what that end is supposed to even look like and what is needed to produce it. And so you've talked about our, creating that team, and you wanted to really hit on this today. And this was kind of your idea where you're like, I think this is important, especially because you're talking to all the people in our community. You're very hands-on there and you're hearing this feedback. And a lot of people first hire anything else. So we're going to hit on this today. It's an important, good topic. Before we do though, I have to say thank you to everybody because I didn't realize this. I never look at my book online, which is kind of funny. It's just they're doing it. But yeah. I happened to look at it 2 days ago, and it was up at a bestseller in I think it was Knowledge Capital, and it was on informational books and stuff. And I was kind of surprised because it was the second book, which has been out since last year, right? And I'm like, what in the world? Like, why did all of a sudden it go back up and hit? And I remembered, and we didn't even ever announce, we launched the audiobook. And I forgot. I haven't even said anything. I literally never said anything. I made a post on Instagram.
It was a soft launch.
It was a soft launch. And I didn't tell anybody. Nobody even knew about it.
That's hilarious.
I didn't know about it until I saw it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. So everybody, the audiobook is out. And I have a big request from you guys. The first book we have, I think it's over 700 reviews. We have 300 reviews or 244, something like that, on my new book. We're approaching the year here marker in the next few months. I want to get it tied with the first book. But the amazing thing is this has almost a perfect score on ratings. It's a 4.9. I think we had one person that gave it a 1-star review, obviously a competitor or something, which that's okay. I get it.
Definitely not a real person.
But outside that, it's literally all 5-star reviews. Thank you, everyone. That is amazing. When you guys leave reviews on these podcasts, like go on to what you're listening to right now. You leave a review, you tell people what they think. First, it does two things. It helps us. That's like our currency in this. It literally is. That's how you pay us to do what we're doing. 5-star, leave a review on the podcast, on the book, right? It does. But the other thing that it does is it helps us understand. So when people leave comments, give us feedback, we like this, you should talk about this, that actually goes into the creation of this content and what we're thinking about and what we want to make and create here. So if you guys could do that for me, that'd be amazing. We appreciate it. Thank you all for the incredible reviews on the book, and the audiobook's out now. So go jump on there and you can check that out. Anyways, Connor, sorry, I just had to say thank you.
No, I'm glad you did. Because we have to announce those things.
I know, and we always forget. We're so excited to talk about self-storage that we actually forget about the other stuff going on, and this is our community. So we apologize. We do that
Now
sometimes.
you know. That's awesome. Yeah, no, not a problem at all, man. Thanks for sharing that. Super exciting stuff. That's a ton of reviews. Keep that stuff coming. Like I just said, currency in all things online and in general. I mean, reviews are so important. So with that said, yeah, jumping into the topic today, it is a huge piece of discussion. When people are first starting, when you're getting that first deal, you're kind of running everything on your own, right? You're the guy taking the phone calls, you're setting up, you're moving tenants in, moving them out. You might even be doing the lock checks and some of the maintenance and all the things. You might be literally doing everything on your own and just farming out a few things. You might be doing all the books yourself, doing all the accounting, messing around in there, getting things done. There's so much of it, doing all the marketing. There's so many pieces that go into this, but there's a lot that you can't do on your own. Obviously, I would hope you're working with a great accountant, you're working with great legal counsel, all of those things, because there's absolutely things that you don't want to and shouldn't do on your own. But when it comes to actually hiring the people within your organization, not using exterior people, not using contractors or any of that, I think it's a really big question for a lot of people. Like, what is that first person that I hire, and when do I hire them? And I think one of the things I'm really curious to see what you had to say, like when you guys went from, 1 to 3 to 5, like what did it look like as you guys scaled? What did you start hiring in first and building that out? But I think it's also important, just as a side note here, to say that looking at not just the cost of what those people might take from the business, looking at it in a way of saying, hey, I'm going to invest in this person or this department to come in and do this task for me, because I think that holds a lot of people back because they think that they just see it as the cost as opposed to the investment. And if you invest that money, then you should be getting an expanded return, right? You should be getting more value from having that person or that department in your company. And so I think that's something too that people really need to consider is like, well, if I didn't have to do these 14 things,
what else could I do?
How much more value could I actually add?
Yeah.
So just some things I'd love to hear, just, square one for you guys. How'd that look?
So first, I think kind of to set a framework for this discussion, because I don't want it to get, I don't want it to be all over the place. We have two parts of the business. You have the storage facility business, then you have the business of storage. And I talk about this a lot. The storage business is the actual facility. The business of storage would be things that we do in the backend. That could be everything from putting the deal together, syndicating, right? That could be everything to do to the management company that manages that individual facility. But that individual facility, it has its own functionalities and businesses within itself. This may have an employee, this may not. So when we look at like self-storage automation, for example, and more of that hands-off with smaller facilities, the only thing you're doing is you're removing which basket the functionality goes to. So when you have a self-storage business with an employee, a lot of the functionality of everything from the sales to doing some people have their managers running the entire business, like everything. Literally doing like the finances, everything else like that. That's all within that one location and that employee's doing it. Whereas if you have no employees, more of automation, it's in the business of storage. It's all in the back end, right? And then a lot of people have a mix. So we do. We have facilities that are automated. We have ones that are not. So we have back end operations, and we've really built out the business of storage. That was always our focus. But the individual storage facilities, which Connor, you worked a lot on, and we built this out this way, and we'll go into that, but it's that individual operations day to day. What does that storage manager need to be doing? Opening up, when do they take calls? When are they doing their lock checks, their cleanings? When are they doing their auctions? How are we getting new people in? Do we have any marketing? All of these things day to day. And then what is happening in the business of storage? The business of storage is really important when you scale, And by scale, I mean just multiple facilities. I don't mean you're building $1 billion organization. But of course, that's a big part of it if you want to do that. But that could be simply just multiple locations. The business of storage is much more important. It is also where everything to do with like syndicating, taking on investors, where that all happens. So when we first got started, we were starting out, we just had some small facilities that were basically ran by a part-time employee of the brokerage or an employee of the brokerage firm that would do some of the things on the side, but it was really more that automated part. Okay. We didn't have a lot of functionality of the day-to-day operations in them. It was a pure, we're talking prior to 2008, you get a renter, right? And you just hope they stay and you maximize occupancy. That obviously we looked and said, this is a business. We need to operate it like a business. That became the playbook, right? Is turn this into business. When we decided to do that, we really created, Bitterroot. And that was we're in the business of storage. And so we had me, my dad, we had Sam, and we would work principally, us three, as partners on the business. And Sam was our COO, and he was the integrator. Anyone familiar with EO or EOS understands that term. You have a visionary and an integrator, okay? So when we had us three, he was the integrator. He did everything that had to do with bills, negotiating contracts with third-party people, all of the technology side, our website, things like that. Me and my dad, we worked other jobs, and then we worked on the sales. So meaning like buying facilities, networking with brokers. We did a lot of the, Sam and I together would do a lot of the underwriting. He would focus on the financial side and I would look at the market side. So the acquisition of the facility, we would all work on together. My dad really took over a lot of the third-party vendor part, where he worked with those third parties and he did the contract negotiations, things like that. I worked heavily on the acquisition side and Sam worked on the business side. So we individually, where we were kind of all doing it together, except Sam was our first full-time employee. He did really the operations side. Me and my dad, I wasn't even getting paid. So I was working for years and I didn't even get paid. We did the growing of the business, so to speak. Now, that's the benefit of having partners when you start. You can delegate different functions to who's good at what, and you can all work together on that same goal. That obviously, though, isn't enough, especially as you're growing. So the first hire that we had was purely admin. It was somebody that was working with Sam, and they would do everything from literally getting the mail. It would be checking emails. It would be all sorts of calling the tenants, looking at different timeframes. It was admin repetitive work that we got off of Sam, and Sam worked directly with them, interfaced, and he would work with that employee, set their schedule, everything else. And then Sam would work on higher level tasks as we went and bought more facilities. And so all of a sudden now we had the partners, we're doing work. Sam was the first, I think, employee, and his job was operations. It was tenant, third parties, it was taxes, it was debt, it was banks, it was finances, it was asset management combined with property management at the time. The difference between asset management and property management is what generally I think people would look at and say the business of storage is asset management, and a self-storage business, when it's one facility, it just happens on the property for most people. As you grow, that property management side becomes a full thing, right? So as you know, here we have the vast majority of our employees are on the property management side, including, as we grew, the employee at the facility we had in that LLC. That actually changed, and then they were employees of the property management company and they worked on site. So our first big facility that had a person on site that we worked with when we bought them, we had Sam, then we had a internal admin person, and then we had a on-site person. That was our first 3 full-time employees. We had smaller sites that didn't have full-time people on them, and then we got one big site that did, and that was the three people and how they would work and they'd function. We worked on once again growing the business. So we were doing everything from working with brokers, going on sites. We were trying to do acquisitions, and we were also working our other jobs to put money and capital in. So we were hiring people to allow us to work jobs. Mm-hmm. That sounds crazy at first. Like people may go, that doesn't make any sense. Well, let me tell you why. There's an actual logical reason. So we were in sales and we did benefits brokerage. So we were paid a good amount. Because we were paid a good amount, the jobs and tasks that we were hiring for made no sense for us to do them. Because even though I'm working for this employer, who was a big national company, they paid me the equivalent of multiple people doing multiple jobs at our real estate part. What that meant was I could get 3 people for the price of me. Well, then don't pay me, get 3 people, we get 3 times as much work. It also then, it's just a cost of capital, right? The opportunity cost, and I was too expensive. It didn't make sense. We could get more people to do more work. And it also then built out a system that wasn't reliant solely on us. So it wasn't about buying ourselves a job. It was about creating a system that could work and grow without us. Every system and business you start, though, can't at first. Even though we hired those people, we still had to do the work. We were jumping in. I was going and unclogging drains and snowmageddon and shoveling all weekend on sites. And we would do, I dealt with all the tenants. It was everything at first. We were doing everything. And then as that piece smelled out, we'd hire underneath us tasks that would allow us to rise up and do higher level tasks, which were generally associated with growing the business. As that started, we moved from on-site, where Sam essentially managed on-sites. So it was Sam in corporate. He managed the LLCs or the sites themselves. Third parties worked, and then we got a facility manager. We had our first admin person here. As we then started to buy and grow, we started to pull things back in. An easy example of this is our on-site person may have managed everything from some of the finances and marketing. They may have also worked with third-party vendors. We started to take all of that off the on-site manager's plate. So you don't do those things. On-site manager, your job is to get new tenants in. So you need to do the things that we can't. Physical lock checks, making sure everything on site is what it says in the system. So we're getting accurate readings. Paying customer has a lock on it. Then it's somebody walks into that door, you have to be there to show them there to sell. Well, if you have 5 people that come in, you're onboarding them or you're out trying to sell them a unit, you're not in the office. You can't take calls. You can't do all this other stuff. And so we moved that stuff internally because we wanted them to sell. You need to fill up units, right? And so that really began the business of storage. We started pulling those things out, not only because we wanted them to sell, but that they weren't good at it. That's not something that they should be doing, right? And so we started to internalize a lot of those functions of marketing, accounting, of everything from, we used to have them do our market research. So the manager would call around and do every week, market research stuff and call and ask other things. We brought that in to do our analysis. And it was this chipping away, right? And bringing it, internalizing it, because what happened is as we bought more sites, all of those site managers doing those activities that made hours a day, we could have one person in the office that could do it for all of those sites.
Yep.
So one person could do what took 4 or 5 managers hours a day away from selling and doing all those other things. So each site gained, 3-4 hours a day. And then one person in the office could do the same thing for all of those sites. Mm-hmm. It was quicker, it was faster, it was more accurate. and we gained more time at the facility, which meant higher sales, which increased our demand, which meant we could increase rates. So that then started that business of storage, that internalization, that specialization on individual things. And it also really started to build out the property management side. We're managing these assets, these properties, and asset management, looking at the financials, the projections, what we were trying to achieve, right? Well, that requires different type of analysis. That it's not so much even on the property, it's financial analysis. What is the difference if we package these into a loan versus not? What are the benchmarks? Then we started to do things like I worked really hard to create programs. The original creation, when we said we want to be, as we started this, work started to obviously get more and more. So at that point, then we brought one of our property managers internal. That was Heather. And we had Sam, we had that full-time admin person. Then we brought Heather from one of the sites inside because she knew all the operations and she was really good at it, really good at selling. So she could actually do a good job at all the facilities, what other managers may have been doing good. Once again, internalizing those to one person that was really good at it, letting the other managers do things. We brought her in to help us. That's when I hired, we're going to, hold on, I got to stop right there. We're going to pause. So at this point, we have multiple facilities. We are building a property management company. We are internalizing and we are professionalizing a lot of these functions. I talk a lot about if you're looking at how this normally works for you or anybody else. I have my 3 levels of leadership. Okay. And this actually talks about how the growth of the company works and how you work within it.
Technology is the name of the game, and how you operate your facility and the efficiency at which you can operate will depend on the technology you use. Your property management system, what it allows you to do, and what you have access will determine the outcome of how that facility performs. That's why we go with Tenant Inc. with their product Hummingbird, because they are the best in class when dealing with automation, when dealing with move-ins, customer acquisition process, improving my online acquisition process. They are bar none the best. So if you are looking to automate your facility or operate it in a best in class way, make sure you guys are looking at Tenant Inc. and their product Hummingbird. The link is in the description.
The first level of leadership is very simple how I look at it because it's a logical outcome based what makes a leader. As in when you are interfacing directly with your customers. So like when I'm doing everything at the storage facility, I'm literally talking to the tenants, all the third party. I'm not a leader, right? I'm doing it. I'm interfacing with all the activity. When I hire, let's just for simplicity's sake, say an on-site manager, I am 1 degree away from the customer now. There's someone in between me and the customer. That is level 1. That means you have employees. At a level 1 leadership, what happens and what we did is you direct the employees. I know what to do. So I'm hiring you to take work off my plate to free up more time. And I'm telling you, go do this, and then they can go do it. And I say, you're in charge of this part of the business or this part. Every time they have a question or they need anything, they come straight back to me and I can tell them immediately what to do. So that first level of leadership is really directing, right? Now, that works until you get too big of a team or tasks get too much. Then you are overwhelmed with employees quickly. So that generally leads to a second level of leadership. The second level of leadership is very different from the first level. This is where I was at this point. So at this point now, we have on-site managers, right? But we're internalizing stuff. And I'm not working all of a sudden with the on-site managers anymore. And that was causing issues and things that I didn't know what was going on. And I needed to change the way that I was doing things, being a leader. That meant I had to rely on a system because I wasn't there to straight direct everyone.
You didn't have it figured out before you got there?
It's weird. I know. I messed up, screwed up a lot. So basically everything you learn is just me sitting up here saying, I screwed up on this, this, and this. So do what you will with it. But so then I looked at it and I'm like, all right, we have to create processes and systems so that everybody knows what they're doing and they have a repeatable thing to do it. Because I can't just direct everybody now. It's an employee thing. They're coming, no, do this, no, and I'm getting confused. Workload seems to be growing, but output seems to be declining. When we needed to professionalize, which that's really that second level. That second level is when an organization professionalizes because they get managers. And those managers, the job of that is you are now 2 degrees away from a customer. You have an employee, a manager, then you. Managers' roles are to make sure that the system, people are working within the system that you created. That's what a manager does. Here's the tasks, the jobs, and the system. Are you doing those things? You're managing people within the system. That means I had to create a system. So I went and I hired my neighbor, who's a friend of mine, who worked on franchise systems. So he managed all these franchise chains. I hired him to come in with me, and we built out a franchise-like system for our storage units. And that was, everything's going to work like this, and it's going to be the same at every single location. So before that, it was just managers calling us. We were doing things, and it was just a need-by basis. We were being reactive.
The easy button.
The easy button. Here, I'll take it. Call me. We got it. When CJ came in, me and him sat down for days. We just like plastered the walls with these big, like the sticky notes. They have like these huge ones that are like the size of the table. And we just put them all over the wall, and we did it by like outcome. Like each thing, we created a process for it. So a sales, how does the sale of a new tenant go? How does onboarding a new tenant go? What happens at auctions? What happens at shutdown, opening? What happens when this? And we just created all of these processes. And then we did all that, and then we compiled it and had processes and systems, which became a manual, an operating manual. Now we had an operating system. So my next higher level was that. It was managers and it was system creating. That was a level 2 management. I liked that a lot. I was really good at that. I liked taking what was nothing and say, no, let's make something out of this and make processes that you can follow. Then we have expectations that allows us to hire better people, and it allows your people to be happier and stay longer. That was fun. That was like, okay, we have all these locations. We're going to run them all the same. That came down to everything, the tile. So we actually were doing gym franchises at the time. And one of the main reasons was I just wanted to be a part of the franchise so we could learn. I mean, I'm at the franchise meeting and all I'm doing is taking notes, just constant notes. And I think people are like, you don't need to know that. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, no, I'm just hacking the system. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what works. And so we can implement it. And we did. Still to this day, you can go into like our facilities and some of the basic things like carpet, things like that. It's taken from a franchise model and we just replicated it. So it would work. Now, this is when we really started to grow. So that system allowed us to manage, operate multiple locations. Once that happened, the business of storage really became something. That's when we needed to expand personnel. And what happens is you have a few areas that generally will expand. The first thing that you have is you have your acquisition team, right? So finding a facility. That may be one person, right? So like for us, that was basically just me and my dad, even after we had managers, right? But you have your acquisition. You have to figure out how to get it done, which is not just finding, underwriting. That is your debt. That is paying it. Then you have to onboard. You have due diligence. You have everything else. Then the onboarding period, day one, which literally we have like, you're doing that now for people like say, okay, you grab a tiger by a tail. What do you do?
Yeah.
So many problems arise at this point.
Oh, dude.
It's wild, right?
It's not easy because there's so much that you don't know. And especially if you're going in and you're not plugging a acquisition, a new facility into an existing infrastructure or operating system, if you're going out and buying your first one, you don't have anything to plug it into.
Yeah.
You're literally just figuring it out as you go.
And you're like, do I switch over the water bill?
Yep.
Who's paying this?
Yeah.
What third party? And
You're like, oh, yeah, maybe like a month later, you're like, maybe I should have
why
checked.
are the lights on?
Yeah.
Like, who cut our power?
Yeah.
Oh, we're not paying our power bill.
There's so many details. And during one of our calls with our inner circle community recently, I just went super in depth because we've got this really awesome, framework that, outlines all these steps from
we
start
created
to
the
finish.
processes and systems.
Exactly. And we're like, hey, you got to go through this and this and this and this. And like, I think everybody in that call was like, their minds were just exploding throughout the whole entire thing. And they're like, dude, I don't even know what to do at this point. It's like, well, here's your spreadsheet.
Here, do this.
Check
Yes.
each one of those
We
off.
just literally
And that's
line item.
And dude, but I mean, I preface the call and, any of those listeners out here preface, like, your expectations going in should be that it is going to be a hell of a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
It's so much work to get a facility, to figure out what those processes look like for you when you're onboarding. And there's just no way, even our acquisitions today, we've got all these amazing systems, processes, people.
Still
Miss things all the freaking time.
all the time. I mean, you got to realize what was our third deal? We bought the facility, whatever, the week after we bought it, website's gone. And we're like, why don't we have our website now?
Yeah, where'd it go?
Well, we didn't put in our acquisition that the online assets were ours.
Yeah. Miss the old IP.
We didn't even get the website. We're like, we thought that was a given. Like, I don't know. No, it's not. So then all of a sudden we didn't even have that. We had to start to recreate. We had to rebuild.
Wild.
Like we've had our lights shut off. That's happened. We've had lights at a facility shut off because the power company's like, well, you called, you transferred it, but some reason the payment didn't go through. One person's not talking to another, right? And so the power goes off.
Dude, that's the other thing, is it's not just about going through and checking those boxes. I'm telling you right now, one of the most valuable things you could probably ever do is get used to this idea of constantly following up with everyone on everything. And that's a nice way of saying babysitting, I think, in a lot of ways. But you have to do it
all the way through.
I'm telling you, you could, whether it's power, whether it's your website, whether it's any of these things, and if you're not looking at those things regularly, you could be going weeks not knowing that your website was shut off, or online rentals were shut off, or that
how many
this thing
people
happened.
aren't paying the first month because their payment processing wasn't set up, because they didn't know they were supposed to come in because you didn't transfer a certain amount of data over, or it was by paper and you didn't reach out. So all of a sudden, time frames,
like certain vendors have time frames that it's like, okay, well, you're gonna have to initiate onboarding, 30 days before close, or you're going to have to notify a current vendor or contractor, the facility providing the tenant insurance, 30 days notice prior to close that, hey, this is happening. We're not going to use that insurance anymore. There's so many different things that you have to go through and check the boxes on. But again, that's why I was kind of joking, like, oh, you didn't know, like, before you got there, because like, just expect that you're not going to get everything, and that you're just going to have to figure some things out as you go. And that's totally okay. And, and that's part of that documentation process and building your SOPs and saying, oh, maybe we should check and make sure everybody has leases.
Every time we do it, it was like we found something else that became part of the process, that became a check. Then this became when we had to make sure that the facilities were doing good, right? Everything else. All of a sudden we had all of these things that we needed to do. We were doing all of it. So then we created audit formats where we had one person from the main audit office would go and audit the facilities. So it wasn't just about making sure that they were doing things that they should be. It was then at what level are they performing? So that then added a whole new level to the management. It wasn't just that the business was running and operating, but like we wanted to meet those objectives and we wanted to perform at a certain level. So then we had to create a standard, and we had to create a way that that was being judged by. So then this second level of leadership, you work on the system, right? You work on the business, not in it. That is what happens at a second level leadership. This takes you from a handful of investments to a business. And that business then can take you very far, right? And all you'll be doing is improving the systems, hiring people within them and improving them. But the managers, right, that you're running, you're now working with higher level employees that are managing. So who's in charge of onboarding? Who's in charge of our marketing? Who's in charge of our accounting? All of a sudden, individual tasks. So that first person, let's say that we hired that does admin, that worked at 3 facilities. At 6 facilities, it's too much work. So then you have to take individual things that they're doing, and that becomes a new job. So workload becomes literally your job title and who you need to hire. We need all of these tasks done. So what is the subject or the category? Basket it together, and that is a marketing person, right? That is a finance person. Whereas those things are at first at the local level. So your storage manager was doing it at first. Then the marketing got brought back to, as a whole, marketing for all the facilities. And that was done by admin people. Then that's not working. And you're looking at your numbers and you're going, why aren't we converting? What's going on? People are like, oh, I didn't have time. I thought I talked to them. And we're like, we're losing money. We got to hire somebody to do this so we'll make more money. I have a marketing job. It's an organic process, right? But that's how, when you're working on the business, what you're doing. What seats do we have that need to be filled? And this becomes an ROI and human capital coming in, because the problem is that most people have, when you move to a second level leadership, it looks like a pure drain on cash flow. I hire a manager to manage people. Like, I get efficiencies, and yes, you should see more output and everything, but it's not an immediate thing. It's not like, I hired them and I just get more sales, or I got a new facility, so I hired somebody new to run it, but I have all this new revenue and cash flow. That's not how it works. So you're hiring people in the system to work on the system. They may not be directly correlated with a positive net cash flow. So then it looks like a drain because you are investing in people. The business needs to grow. So you're investing in people to grow that revenue, to grow that business. It's not directly correlated. Most jobs prior to that, outside of admin help, you see an immediate benefit because that allows you more time. And you're like, oh, that's worth it because you were doing it. But you're not doing those individual tasks now. Other people are doing it. Entrepreneurs get stuck here where they go, I'm just going to manage the employees because I know how to do it. And if you hire a manager to manage the employees, right, you don't get that direct ROI, but then you also don't get to grow. So I see people get stuck a lot, and they can't get past the first level to the second level because they don't have good processes and systems. And so when they hire somebody to go in, they're like, they just don't do a good job, or they didn't get the outcome. And I'm like, well, what was it? What system were they working in? It's almost always your fault. And especially when you're new. And so you hired the wrong person, and you didn't have good processes and systems, and you didn't have good measurable outcomes to sit down and look at your KPIs and goals to judge how that person was doing. So the person comes in, they don't really know the objectives. They don't really know how to accomplish them. And they're like told to figure it out. But if anything goes wrong, you're in trouble. That's
not a great
horrible.
environment.
Not a great environment. That's bad for people to start. And so, but this is a natural, common thing that happens. So that's why that second level, it's about the system and hiring people to come operate it so you can grow. But it is a true investment.
Something to that point too, on like measuring, you said a lot of really good things about setting the standards when you're talking about audits and some of these things, and like following process and managing people to make sure that they're operating within those guidelines that you've created through your policies, procedures, standard operating procedures, and all of that. But something that I think so many people don't understand the value of completely. They think it's important, obviously, I think in a lot of cases, but they don't, I think, realize how important it is that focus on those standards as far as and that impact that it has on your competitive advantage running and operating those facilities. And especially these days when you've got, I mean, Class A assets that, have the technology, they're super clean, they're not like 30 years old, all these things. Like that didn't used to be the case. You used to find a lot of the older facilities. There wasn't Class A stuff, like our facility in Meridian. There wasn't facilities like that. That was like a Taj Mahal, never like people were just blown away that it was a storage facility. But now that's like the standard. And so that's what's just is really, really important to take away too from this is just realize how much value you can create or even perceived value and therefore real value by measuring those standards and having a high level of standards and auditing those things and
holding
making
people
sure
to them.
Oh man, it's so important.
And this, when you get into a point where you're getting further away from a customer, you can get disconnected. And then you can get upset because your financials is showing you there's issues, but you don't know where those issues are. This is a classic problem. The more disconnected from the on the ground you get, you actually don't know what's going on as much. It shouldn't be that way, but that's what's happening to you. That makes you frustrated. You get mad at the people. It's their fault, right? Because I can't tell. All I can see is my numbers are getting worse. This is not where you should be. And so telling people, first of all, saying that even the managers, we are all correlated with that outcome, all of us. And we hold ourselves to a quality of standards. We hold ourselves to these numbers where we're talking about occupancy or revenue growth or whatever these things may be. How many reviews are we getting online? What is this we're holding to? And making sure that everybody's bought in so there isn't this disconnect. And that disconnect that we've had our company get to a point where we were disconnected and separated from the assets to the management team and then confused by what was happening. I made these mistakes and that can be really, really dangerous, but that speaks to the overall system you created and what needs to be fixed in that, not to give up and not be like, this doesn't work. I'm just going to do it directly. That's it. It is this, how are we measuring? What are we keeping track of? And what are the most important things in the focus area to hold to standards? If you look today, this evolves into you guys creating departments. So you have managers and then you start to, the managers end up being departments within an organization, which is the department is over the functionality of whatever it is. So if you look at our organization today, our departments, we have, okay, let's talk about this. Let's go over our different departments. First of all, we have like construction management, we have architecture, we have acquisition, we have marketing, we have investor relations. We have, as far as the property management side goes, we have like maintenance. So we have like on the ground maintenance. We have accounting. We have our, we have HR, we have sales. We have asset management department.
Legal in there.
Legal. What else do we have?
Outside of that, operations wise, you touched on,
especially on the property management side.
Yeah, there's more of like there's a level of the operations side where it's more of the admin and the personnel management,
customer interfacing part. You have that. So like a customer department, one
sales.
Then you have two. You have more of like literally the policy procedure standard part that is the auditing, right? It would be that standard. Like these people work on the standard of the facility. Are we keeping up with it? But you can see how the departments are just functions that once again, it goes back to, we had one person doing it, all of it. And as you grow, you have people, then you have departments, right? This leads to the third level. And this is the hardest jump that most people can't get to. As the company grows, you now are going to hire different types of people. And those are executives. So the company grows, it gets bigger. You're working with the managers. The things that when owners get stuck in the business, the things that end up falling away is the vision. It is the growth of the business. And they get not just stuck, they get lost. The owners are head down. They don't know what's going on. And all they're doing is missing opportunity that would allow that company to grow. They're not making the right connections with the right people. The owner is not doing the right thing. He is not out representing the company and driving everything from new deals, investors, opportunity to the team to execute on. That's what I do, right? I look and say, this is where things are headed. My job is to say, this is the landscape that we are in. And then I say, what do we need? And then I drive those things to the team so that they can execute. I'm watching for risks and I'm driving opportunity. And that's what I'm doing all day. And that is, you may say, oh, that's okay, that's nice. I do it too. You're like, no, that's actually a massive amount of work. It is so much amount of work. We now have departments that help me with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot when you're managing other people's money. The opportunities that we need are extensive in our organization. I can't do that alone anymore. It's not even possible. And two, the ability for us to look at all the different markets to understand where things are changing on the landscape, from investments to banks to how these things meet, what that means, so we're prepared for our investors and our teams, and we need to allocate resources. I manage resources. So I say, this is what's happening. This is what we can understand. Here's the opportunity, people, to execute. Let me drive more to it. And then we look and we all sit together and we say, here are issues, things that I need to get fixed, which highest priorities come up to us. But then I look at it too, and we have our board meetings and everything. We decide on which opportunities to take advantage of and which ones not to. And then resource allocation. We have so many resources. Where should we put it? Where are we going to get the biggest bang for our buck? We have legal issues, all that. That's the stuff that I'm working on. So it's not even so much the system. Executives now are working on the system. They're working really on the inside the business and on the business. Managers are inside. Executives are on it, working with the managers to go in it, right? And then you have the top level, which is those owners. They are the leaders, and that's what they're doing and managing. I have more work today than I used to, and I can't get to everything that I need to. But when I can't, the whole company suffers together. That becomes really bad. And our investors suffer and others, and we don't hit targets. I need to remove barriers for the team, right? But so your third level is you are now employee, managers, executives away from that customer. So you're 3 degrees completely in categories away from that customer. What you need to be is different. I don't build the system anymore, right? So I'm not doing processes, systems, executing on that side. So that's not skill set and everything I need to have. It's a different one. And the people that you hire now are different. Now the people that we're looking for are people that are creators. They need to be a much higher level where they can create policies, procedures, where they can see outcomes. They have control over resources and capital that we're allocating, and they need to make sure it's put to use. They're doing the hiring. They're doing all of these things. Executives are what you were literally, one time ago. So how you interface with those people is also different now. You don't interface with them like you would do managers, where you're like, are you holding people? Show me your report, processes, systems, right? It's a higher level. We have our main goals, our rocks. I want them to execute and achieve the most important goals that we have set up. When we're not, we'll look at why we're not. When they have problems executing, they come talk to me. But I'm not there making sure that they execute necessarily even in a way that I want them to. Mm-hmm. No, this is the goal. This is what we're trying to achieve. Everybody's rowing in the same direction. I'm driving opportunities, resources. We're getting together to solve problems. It's this team effort that we're all working. You execute. I'm going back out to drive opportunities and to solve the biggest problems and issues. And that can be everything from working on everything from executive comps, getting new executives in, to lawsuits, to bank issues, to basically the worst problems is what I sit around and I'm trying to find people to solve and negotiate all day. It's the crap of the crap. And it's just leveraged because it's all bigger and worse, right? Yeah. And then I have to find the best opportunities. So it's this constant juggling. It's a very different way of hiring and how you interface with those employees. So you can see how when, first of all, there's no degree of separation, it's just you. You're not a leader, right? You're just doing everything. Then the second is you have employees. Then you're directing people to do everything. Then you're building processes and systems, and you're creating a business. So that's when your departments come about for all those functionalities. After that, and you have managers to run the departments, everything. After that, it's executives. So who you have to be is not building systems anymore. It's more that leadership basis. This is a revamp of, like, we talk about the employees. I care more about you. The employees, if you are clear about the task, how to accomplish it, and how we measure that outcome, and then what is the culture and the type of people that we want to hire, go out and find that person. Then put them in the system and tell them what needs to be successful, make sure they're doing it, follow up, right? Do all those kind of things. You can do that. If it's not working out, you need to be able to measure why. Why isn't this working? And is it you, right? Is not. Sometimes it's not you. We just need to move you in seats. Now, that happens naturally. Remember, I've moved seats as our company grows. Stagnation's bad. I force myself out of my position. I'm firing myself constantly. And that's what I have to do. It's about keeping the organization in mind, right? And growing it. So you need to work on finding the best people to get rid of yourself, to fire yourself, so you can move up and other people can take that place. The better you are at this, the faster you will grow. You have things that you're not good at. That's fine. You need to find somebody that is good at it, create a system, have those outcomes, have it measured, tied in with the whole, and then you need to be guiding so everybody's rowing in the same direction. It's an organic process, right? That is all about you being a good leader and building out a business system, making mistakes, correcting them, documenting, following up, working with the individuals, motivating, seeing what's wrong. And then once again, you're at the top, you're allocating resources, capital resources, human capital, opportunity, risks, all those things. That's where you're pushing and moving around. This is a full encompassing. So, I mean, even now, like I spend all my time with executives. So I have executives in the private equity. We have executives that do operations of the facilities, that do operations of the business. Then I have other businesses where I have the COOs and CEOs of those, and I'm interfacing with them. And so my day is one person comes in, we have these issues, we have that, we have this opportunity, we need these resources, and it's trying to move those things around all day. Whereas it used to be, I was just directing individual employees all day. What do you need? Oh, no, do this. No, oh, shoot, we shouldn't have done that. Go down. I'm going to go talk to the manager. I'm driving down there, right? So now I'm back to directing. It's just I'm directing a team that is just as qualified or more qualified than me. And we are coming together to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a really, really great breakdown to run through how those functions of the business really do turn into those departments of the business and how that natural progression of things goes. What for you was like the hardest thing going from each of those levels?
Directing employees was not my strength. I'm like, just do it. Like, I just do it. That's why I liked the actually second level where I liked creating processes and systems that they could follow. Yeah. I did enjoy that. I'm like, no, this is how we should do it, everything, because I felt like I was empowering them and things were clear because I'm like, I know what we're trying to, here's how you do it. I can do this one time. You're not coming back to me every day and I'm not, I'm not a micromanager. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at holding to those things in other people. So at first, I think I got overwhelmed really quickly. And that's two spots where it's like, I can either live in this or we can grow out of it. Now, the second level was the processes and systems were fun to create. The coordination, though, of the individuals that were operating in those processes and systems, that's where I struggled a little more in. It was that execution. So what made a good manager what made a good manager was different than a good employee. So there was employees that I moved up to be managers because they were good at their job. that doesn't mean they're a good manager. And that was hard for me to learn. You're good at your job. That doesn't mean you're going to be good at managing people. And so I had to figure out that. It's a big one. It's a big one. And then the next level, so those were things I struggled with. The next level is the biggest one. It is different from either one of them. And you're working with executives. The first problem I think that I had is I didn't know how to balance, and I struggle with it still. I don't believe I'm at a full third level leadership. I don't believe I'm there yet. I believe I'm trying to get there, and I believe I have the support of my executives that allow me to figure it out. And that's really important. And so one of the things that I struggle with is how much am I supposed to be involved and how much am I not? And like, what is those levels? I don't really know that. And I'm trying to figure that out. Where do you need help? And how do we monitor this?
That's one of those things that reminds me of that topic that we were just talking about recently about how to structure deals. You know, everybody's always wondering what's the, ideal deal structure and how to do that. And we talked a lot, at length, high level. You're not really going to know until you have some of those pieces in front of you to actually look and see how to structure.
Exactly. Like, you can think all you want that you're going to act this way, but you're only going to act this way because in your mind, you've made up how the other people are acting or what's going on.
Yeah.
So of course that's easy to figure out how you would be or how you think you would be. But when you get in the situation and it's nothing how you thought it would be, and you don't know answers, and you may not even know how to get, all of a sudden it changes the way you interact. You won't really know until you're in it. And the key is then getting the feedback and saying, all right, I'm not doing a good job here. I need to adjust. I need to move forward here. This isn't working. And some of it is comfort level. Some of it is I'm not good at this. I really don't want to be as involved in this. And other times it's like, I'm not involved and I need to be. Then the question becomes, what level do I need to be? And that is a conversation with executives. What are you comfortable with? So lots of times we've sat down and I sit down with the executives and I say, I don't like that. I don't feel like I quite understand what all's happening right now. And we're moving fast. And then it's like, okay, well, what would make you comfortable? Mm-hmm. And I have to say, this is a good question. Let's talk about the different things that I may be missing. It's like, I obviously don't want to micromanage, update it. So what are our rocks? What do we have all these going? But what do I need to be involved in for my comfort level? This is individualized. And every single leader, right, will be different in this aspect because they have different strengths, right? I'm very good at driving opportunity. I'm really good at creating problems and opportunity. So like really good at it.
It's a good balance.
Yeah, good balance. And so I'm like, hey, I want to, but because that is my best role in the company, that's where people need me. The company needs me to be placed there. So it becomes this balancing act of who you need to be and who you are. And it's a merger to fit the best fit in there. And that will be shaped by the people around you, by the marketplace and what's going on. Because in different cycles and different times, your strengths and your weaknesses will come out more. And you have to find that area that works best for you with the organization and within what you're trying to execute in your overall goal. Because the organization will have needs, right? And so it's finding that balancing act when you move into that new role. And every single time I've done this, I have failed massively. And I've had to go back and redo things and been like, that just didn't work. I thought it would. And I thought if I made the structure, I couldn't see. I didn't know until I was in it. So the biggest problem I think I actually has, I think I thought I knew. And so I created something without being in it and without having to go through it organically. And then it just didn't work. Well, it didn't work because it was created in my mind and what I thought. And then I put resources to execute it how I thought it should be. Even though that's the people, everything else, it didn't turn out. So what I've learned to do instead is you move fast and you build as you move and you have much quicker and tighter feedback loops. So you create more ability for you to err, but the errors are much smaller. So I can err more, but they're much smaller errors. As in, I'm not building infrastructure. And then if that infrastructure fails, now I have all of this huge amount of infrastructure that I just failed at because I bet it all on building this new way. Instead, let's take our resources and start building as we go, hire that one, see how they're doing, build out with them. And I'm doing lots of little activities. We're going fast when we're building, but it's building right for the situation, the time, the needs of the organization and business. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes a ton of sense. And one of those things that I wanted to highlight this whole time is from the time frame that you went, just you, your dad, Sam, to that, maybe first couple hires in internalizing some of those operations. How many years of time was that?
A long time. You're talking for us to get from just some basic assets, a part-time person that was kind of working on them and us working on them, to then having Sam full-time, having another person full-time, and then having the manager, like the organization. That's like 6 years. Those are 5 years probably.
Dude, and I wanted to highlight that because I think so many people, they don't have that baseline. They haven't been exposed to that before in a lot of cases. They haven't seen it before, especially like so many of our members and these different people, that come in the community or inner circle that are like really trying to rewrite their legacy in their lives and go and do things that haven't been done before for them and their families. And I wanted to highlight that because there's so many times that I think people, especially in the beginning, think that they need to have it all figured out and they need to have all the answers, and it needs to happen like today.
Yeah.
Like it should happen, or even in the next year or 2 years. It's like, no, man, like this is going to take a long freaking time. Like, don't expect just to go in and hire all these people and then have this need to build all this infrastructure immediately or do any of this stuff. Don't think about any of those things. From my experience, I would say don't go in and preemptively hire people with the expectation that things are going to go in a certain direction. I think that's a really good way to fail because, like you said, you don't know what things are going to look like.
Build as you're going.
Yes, go through the growing pains, maximize the crap at everything.
Yes.
Like
only hire and only do till you have to.
Yes.
Till the system is like, if you don't do this, we're going to break.
Yeah,
like,
going off the rails.
It's
dude.
like, exactly. And that's how, to start, that's how it works.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with executives, it's different. That's not the same thing. But another thing that I think people have a hard time with leader, it's completely personal, is you have a window in the mirror problem where leaders, when the company succeeds, they look in the mirror and they see themselves. And then when there's failures, they look out the window to others. And this is easy for people to do when they have employees. It would have worked if I was done it. You did it. It's your fault, right? That's why it's not working. And the problem with this, besides the obvious, is also how you build. So when you are looking at individuals, you have to realize that individuals, they may not work in your organization, and that's okay. Like it's fine. You want to be here, great. You don't move on. You don't need to be attached in a way that because you believe in something and you're so bought into it, realizing that it needs to be a right fit, and you need to be fluid about that and not force it. Every time I force something and try to convince people and things like that, it really doesn't work out. Mm-hmm. It needs to come from them, and you need to be okay with it. And then you need to spend time when things fail looking in the mirror, because that's what you can change. If an employee leaves or we have to fire them, of course, I can just say, oh, it's their fault, but that doesn't teach me anything. So first of all, it's not 50. And I think I mentioned this on social media or whatever. It was 50% of the time an employee fails, at least it's your fault. At least you hired them. So right there, right? But then two, most of the times employees fail because the process or the system they're in set them up for failure. They're like, or you believe that they would be good at it, so you put them in it. Or even worse, your expectations for them is not aligned. And instead of working with them and building it out, you blame them until you fire them. I'm a big believer, and I think our leadership team has been doing a really good job at this now, where we look and say, hold on here, if it's not working, why on both sides, and even on you, like, why aren't you working in this role? And you'd probably be a better fit elsewhere. And I know, you as well as Ruben and Jonah and others, it's like, hey, do you like this? Do you not? Okay, let's move you in this role, right? It's trying to figure out, first and foremost, if it's not working, is it the system? Then what is it about that individual, their strengths, their weaknesses, or if they like it or not, that's not working? And would those skill sets and everything be better suited? Because to find somebody that believes in what you're doing and wants to do and is bought in and they want to be a part of it, right? That's a big piece. And you should utilize them, but it also has to be utilizing them in a way that is both beneficial for both sides. And so taking just a step back and saying, okay, hold on here, let's not play this blame game. We're not yelling at, people, things like that. But then also leaders have a hard time, some leaders do, I know that I do, they're cutting the cord because I want them to be successful. And two, I have this nasty little thing where I really believe in other people. Like like, I don't mean that as like, oh no, I'm a good guy. Like, no, I actually mean that as a downside. And leaders need to understand this, because when I say that I believe in people, I believe in people outside what they're actually capable to do. So I'll set somebody up for failure. And that has haunted me, because I'm like, no, I believe you can do it. They're not capable of doing it. They don't have the resources to do it. Then they fail and then they leave. And that could have been avoided if I was more realistic about the capabilities that individual had. And I would have just changed either the role and had them build up until they were able to do it. So I literally don't mean that as a good thing when I say I believe in people too much. It's not, because I'm not being realistic about capabilities. That means I'm hurting them. Instead, I believe in your potential, but you're not there yet. So we need to get you there. That's different. So there can be this leadership where it's either you just blame people and you fire people, or you believe in people and you're not realistic and you can't cut the cord. Because you're like, but you can become great and you can be great at this job. Well, of course they can, but it may be 10 years.
Yeah.
And so you're like, we need it now. Then the rest of the organization is failing because you're holding on to something that eventually they'll become. By the time they become it, they end up leaving the organization. And then you invested all this time into someone that just ends up leaving. Those have been natural struggles for leaders that I see. A lot of times it's one or the other. Finding a mix between that of being realistic by the person that you hire with their capabilities and believing in them, right? And creating a system that they can succeed at, and looking at it and saying, what in reality is the expectation, the output? What do you have the capabilities on? And then how do we measure success up front? Do you believe that you can do X, Y, and Z to create X output? Do you have that skill set? Have you done this before, right? Being very pragmatic and realistic about it, that helps those individuals and it helps you. And when you fail at it, turn to the mirror and look and say, what do we need to improve so the next person that you hire, you don't make the same mistakes. And the thing that kills leaders is they blame everybody on the faults, and when people succeed, they just look at themselves in the mirror. And the reason it fails, besides once again the obvious, it's because that doesn't allow them to work on the system and the business and make it better.
Yeah, to actually even identify the issue.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can't solve the problem, right? Unless you acknowledge it exists.
And these issues, I'm not talking about managing employee, one employee, a part-time, your VA. Like, people, I think, hear this stuff and like, I don't have a lot of employees. You don't need to have a lot. You can have a part-time VA. What you're paying for something, you want to get the best results you can out of them. That will help you make more wealth, income. That will make you more successful. That'll make you hire people, and it'll make them better. Work at it. Focus on it. Like, even if it's just a part-time employee, right? Don't take it lightly. Like, be intentional intentional about this stuff, because then you'll get better at it. You'll get really good at it, even when it's just that part-time employee doing it. Then when you hire a full-time employee, you've been intentional, you know what you need to do, you know how to do it, you get better and better and better. And then you have a rock star team that is unbeatable. But it's because you worked on it from the very start. You get a rock star team not because you find them, but you create a system that attracts and keeps them.
No, those are all really good points. And something too that came to mind as you were talking about those things is you talked about, things working, right? And one of the things that I thought of is there's a lot of organizations out there where things are working. They might be, going along just fine, quote unquote, and working and stuff's, you're making money, you're doing the things, but is it working to the degree that it could and should? So going again back to putting those high-level people or those subject matter experts in the certain roles and setting people up for success versus failure, those right hires, you might have that individual that, you put in that position that might survive however long, limping things along and things are, seemingly quote unquote okay, but could they actually be better?
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that people don't recognize as well, where it's like, yeah, cool, we're cash flowing, we're making money, but how much better could it be if we actually took and like you said, changed seats, raised the bar, did this, did that. There's so many ways to just improve value that I think that's overlooked sometimes, that like never stop looking at ways to and asking the questions like, is this the best? Good as it could be? Yeah, the best. Is it as good as it could be?
Good, better, best. The reason I found too, by the way, everyone, the reason that I failed most at two parts. After we built the business and system, departments, and then creating my first executive team. And I know why I failed at it, because there was so much and I didn't have a lot of help that I couldn't be aware of the little things. We started missing things and I started getting failures here and there, and I couldn't even keep track of it. So the problem was that I didn't take on the help that I needed, and I didn't get the quality of help that I needed because I didn't want to invest in it. And that makes a cascading effect down through the organization of failures, because you can't hold standards. I couldn't. It's impossible to do. And so as you're growing, it's really important that management and executive team is there to do exactly what Connor's saying. We may be good, but can we be better? And are we the best? And what happens is good and better that is not going towards best ends up failing and causing problems. And I had that happen to me. I felt that, and I saw it in the numbers. The numbers started telling me and showing me failures that I had in my own organization. So all of a sudden, the outcome, I wasn't being connected because I was doing too much. I had too many people, too much going on. I didn't have enough help, right? And that is a common problem, because that investing in people is hard, but in investing in executive level people, those are big ticket items, and you have to release a lot of control. And that can be really, really hard for entrepreneurs. It took me a failure, I think, to really get me to be in the position of a third level leader. Like, I needed to get burned to push me into it. And that happens too much in my life. I wish it didn't, that I had to feel pain to move. And so I hope you guys all don't, and you can recognize that. And like we talked about, it's about building and making decisions quickly as you go, and build for that need and that demand that you have in the organization. Are standards slipping? Well, then who's in charge of making sure? Well, I am, but I can't get to everything. Okay. It's not okay for your standards to slip. That should be the utmost importance. Then you know where you need to go, what you need to hire. Hire quickly, see what's improving, make things work. If it doesn't work, move on. Don't go get a ton of money and build out. Move quickly, be moving towards a goal, but be very reactive to the key sensitive signals, not noise, not everything else. Be reactive to what's changing in the numbers or the outcomes that you can see, so you can be proactive. And that's really, really an important piece here.
No, it is. Being able to act fast, man, it's huge.
Close those little feedback loops.
Yep.
And that if you don't have a right structure at scale, that starts to crumble.
It does, man. No, you can, and losing months of time in an organization could end up meaning you're missing out on years of opportunity and revenue.
I don't want employees because I don't want to deal with all that work. I don't want to deal with everything else. I will tell you, I totally understand that. I completely understand that. I will also tell you, it is with good employees, a good base, a good structure, and organization. I work less, yet I have 10 times the output, and the problems and issues that I have are actually easier to manage, to deal with, to handle, and they're more digestible. It's easier to accomplish my goals and to do things. There's this valley. That valley usually happens at your second level where the employees and stuff really start draining you, everything else like that, because you haven't built the system. That's your signal to you're not doing it right. It should be an investment in help. It shouldn't be this idea that if I'm hiring and bringing people on, this is going to make my life miserable. And if that is true, you're not doing it right. That's, once again, a you problem.
Yep.
That is not your employee's problem. It is a you problem. That's your signal that you're doing things wrong and you need to change.
No, this has been such a great view behind the veil of how you guys have built this organization, the wins, the losses, what the processes look like. And hopefully all you guys out there listening can take away a ton of lessons from this and start, building these foundations. Again, this isn't going to provide you everything, but to be able to form and build some of those foundations early on and draw from the experiences that AJ and we've been through in this organization. It's just a huge, huge topic, and was excited to talk about that today. So I think
it's a good one. Good call on this, Connor. You've been talking about this a couple weeks, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, but it is important. And two, if you don't have employees, you still are working with third parties. There's no such thing as doing this stuff on an island. That doesn't exist.
You're not going to be on your own ever.
It's people game. It is a people game.
Yeah.
It's the same things apply, whether they're under a W-2 under you or not.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, thanks so much for listening, everybody. Talking reviews. Please leave us a review here for the podcast.
Yes,
leave us
everybody.
Whatever, it can be just one word, awesome, whatever.
A little value for the value we try to give. That'd be wonderful.
Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time.
Everybody.